Welcome to our weekly reading where we explore all things astrological. From our two different points of view in two different locations in the world, we bring to you a unique astrological perspective on what is happening right now across the globe. So here we go. Hi everybody, this is Diana in LA and Cary in the UK, and we're here to talk about this week's stars. We have a full moon coming. It's a big one. It's an eclipsed full moon on top of it with the North Node, which always bodes interesting for the next cycle of time, months ahead. It kind of sets a tone. We are at 8 degrees Gemini, full moon, and this is very interesting because that means the full moon is in Gemini, the sun is in Sagittarius. Exactly the opposite of Donald Trump. He has sun in Gemini, moon in Sagittarius. And so this full moon will be impacting this man's life this coming week very intensely. We have a lot of interesting dynamics this week with some really kind of beautiful aspects in the center of it all. Mercury changes signs, moves into Sagittarius. That's very exciting. That should feel good. That should feel forward moving. We should be getting some good news and some different news for a change. But as this week moves through in this sort of rolling fashion, we're getting ready for the next couple of weeks afterward with Mars squaring the stellium for the last time, and that will be very bumpy rides. In our news cycles, we'll be noticing that, and in our lives. So there's a lot to say about the full moon, which we'll come around to. But Cary, how is it going over where you are?
We're in for a very interesting week. There's some lovely aspects coming up this week. There's a grand trine in water on Thursday, and it's followed on Saturday by a grand trine in fire. So a lot of people who are born between the 9th and the 12th of their birth months, both in water and in fire, will be feeling the really good effects of these transits that are happening this week. What you said about what's happening in the next 2 weeks, with Mars beginning to approach the stellium at the end of the week, is kind of heralding it's going to be a bit of a bumpy ride, but it's not going to be as bumpy as it was before. This week is going to be a lovely week for some people, but for the world, it's going to be a bit of respite before Mars makes the final last hurrah against the stellium.
Right, and so the December is going to be very interesting as we are kind of come right into it now. On Saturday, we're filming this, which is November 28th. By the beginning of December and through those next couple of few weeks, we're going to be really feeling this rolling action of Mars squaring stellium. Meanwhile, this week, even though we have these two amazing grand trines in a week, one fire, one water, we are still experiencing Venus oppose Uranus the whole time. So that idea of our ideals being challenged, and that idea of we've been talking about for a while, about finding what we believe is true as a collective versus personal. So it feels like a very interesting week to me because on one hand, it's sort of beautiful. There's some gorgeous aspects that should feel uplifting even. But then get ready because the next couple of weeks are going to be hard. We're going to be getting more and more news, more and more reveals. And also because this full moon is an eclipsed full moon, that means there's things that will come and continue to show up about this eclipse now for several months following. And so there will be more and more being shown, more and more being revealed. And because it's in Gemini, the full moon, it'll be probably about information.
And having Mercury sextiling the stellium, the information will be quite positive, but it will be challenging to certain types of thinking, if you put it that way. Because the sextile of Mercury communication, eases up the strength of the stellium, but with Mars moving forward, people are beginning to feel it. In the UK, just today, there were demonstrations again in the centre of town against the lockdown, and the lockdown finishes next week, but we go into a tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 stage. London's going to be in tier 2. Most of the country's going to be in tier 3. So we're not out of this yet, and there's a lot of dissatisfaction and pushing back from the population against the government for the decisions that they have to make. Your new president is going to have to deal with that on a larger scale. To put it in perspective, the whole of the UK can be fit into the state of Texas. And we've lost 50-something thousand people to the coronavirus, but for the UK, it's a great deal. America's lost over 250,000. So these are very challenging times. The conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn together will make this, in Aquarius, will make this a much easier transition for the incoming president.
Right, and that's more around the third week of December 21st, the solstice, which is going to be really amazing. So there is relief inside, and there will be kind of a new way of everything. It's going into Aquarius as we move into the age of Aquarius. It's those first burgeoning steps as we move into this whole new world view that we're all looking at. But still the division continues. Venus is opposed Uranus. Mars is going to be squaring the stellium again. It's been all year long going in and out and in and out. So this conjunction that started in October, that's starting to finish now in December, it will be done, and new things will be coming up. This particular next few weeks is going to be very interesting to watch. I think it's a good time, though. You know, it is interesting. We're going to have more awareness, more things being revealed, and I think there's going to be a real change. Though in terms of corona, I think that's in the next couple of weeks going to spike. Obviously, it already is. We're all talking about it in the United States. It's higher than ever. Thanksgiving was a holiday we just finished, so there was a lot of traveling. So, you know, you can just deduct by logic that there'll be some sort of spike. But I think it's going to be sort of the last hurrah. Maybe a couple more weeks maxed out, and I think then we're going to start to see the gradual ending of this virus situation where it's got such a hold on us, even though it probably will be in the spring and a little bit after, where we're going to really feel like things are more in the normal range in terms of the virus. But I think the worst will be over in these next couple of weeks.
The conjunction of Jupiter and Pluto in Aquarius in the new year will coincide with the implementation of the vaccines that they've been talking about recently. And that's going to have a massive effect on both the United States and the UK, because the economy is not functioning when people can't go to work. And although the decisions were made over the last 12 months in the United States with regards to coronavirus, it wasn't really addressed. And as a result of that, it's got out of control. So this will all be about bringing it back into control, vaccinating the people, not charging the people, because a lot of people won't be able to afford it. So the governments are going to have to pay for the vaccinations of their people to protect their people, which is positive. And I think that will happen in this presidency. The result from that is the economies will start to grow, but that's going to take a great deal of time before that happens. In the UK, we were told this recently of the economic impact and how people who work for the government, for example, will have their pay freezed for the next few years. It's going to be quite a tough time. The effect of the coronavirus will subside once all these vaccinations take place, and it will be the beginning of the healing of the financial economy going forward. So it's quite a positive time, but the next few weeks will be quite challenging.
Yes, and that's if we, a lot of people do not think that the vaccine is the solution to all this. It's interesting, there's still so much division, even about whether to wear a mask or not, or whether to take vaccines or not. There are so many people that are not on board. And I don't know, we don't know the answer to this. This is the discovery process we're all in together to see, how do we heal our world. The vaccine might be part of that, probably is part of that, but we don't really know because it's been pushed through so quickly. So it'll be interesting to see how that all goes, but that'll be happening more in the beginning of the year and on into spring. So for right now, though, we've got a full moon, and that happens exactly here in Los Angeles on Monday morning at 1:30 a.m. So that'll be really Sunday night. And we'll be doing full moon meditations here in LA. I'll be doing one on Facebook. You're welcome to join. And also there, wherever you are, so it'll be 9:30 a.m. in the UK, for instance. So that's when the moon is exactly full. And it's good to meditate at these times of the full moon because you're kind of syncing up with that big cosmic clock out there to get hooked up to the energies that are downpouring into our world for this great big full moon in Gemini. So if you have planets in Gemini, or if you know which house Gemini is in your chart, that's where that full moon is going to be shining particularly. And so it is always, because it's ruled by Mercury, has to do with communications. And Mercury going into Sagittarius this week also, we've got a lot of forward motion having to do with how we're communicating. We've learned a little in these last months of how to have better and more peaceful communications. There's still more to learn, of course, but I think because it's been so rough and so intense that we've all had to go through like a course on nonviolent communications.
What you were saying about people with their signs or planets in Gemini, people with Gemini suns or Gemini rising will feel the effects of this full moon. It could be quite spectacular for them, especially as it's an eclipse.
Right, and on this weekend, Saturday, we've got that grand trine in fire signs. So fire signs are all lit up right now, and so where you have fire signs in your chart, that's always good to look at because that will tell you again the places of action, the subjects of action as we come into a grand trine. A grand trine is a really positive aspect. It means it's like a machine, it's a gyroscope, it's moving, it moves itself. You don't have to do a lot, it just is going on in its own right. And so it's this beautiful wheel that's rotating and you can just kind of jump on like a merry-go-round, and so we're coming into that energy this weekend. However, even though it's a grand fire trine, it is fraught with squares. Venus square Moon, Sun square Neptune, and Mars starting for the last time to square the stellium, getting closer and closer now with Pluto, Mars square Pluto. So that's going to be something's going to be happening starting, I would say, this coming weekend, December 4th and 5th, and then we begin that wild ride of the next couple of weeks as Mars squares that stellium for the last time.
I guess the positive thing for anybody who's born in the sign of Aries between the 9th and the 14th of April, they will feel this probably more than anyone else because Mars has been transiting their sun for quite a while, so it's brought a lot of energy into their lives. Having a grand trine there could be quite extraordinary. So it'd be interesting to see what people experience who got their sun at that degree of Mars or any other planet, but more so their sun, because those people more than anybody else have been feeling the challenge of the stellium because the Aries and Capricorn square each other. So it's quite a challenge, been quite a challenge for the Arians over the last few months, and this will be quite liberating on Saturday, although Mars is beginning to hit the stellium, but that's more on the worldwide stage. But for them, it will be quite a wonderful day.
So what about that grand trine in water signs, Cary?
Wednesday, Thursday will be a really nice day for anybody born between the 9th and 14th of their birth month, who's a water sign, because you'll really feel the impact of this grand trine. It will be a dreamy day, be a very creative day. You'll definitely feel it, and it will be quite positive. And if you've got any other planet, fast-moving planet like Mercury or Venus at any of those degrees in water, so we're looking at 16, 17, 18 degrees in water of each sign, you will definitely feel this transit, and Wednesday, Thursday will be a lovely day.
And dare we say a happy day? Carefully, we say that. And so, on that note, we wish you a wonderful week of a water grand trine, a fire grand trine at the end of the week, squares, 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 to begin the wild ride of the next 2 weeks after that. But this week is going to be good, mainly, with still more news coming up. Venus still opposed Uranus, so watch yourself and keep being aware of how we are communicating, what we're thinking about, how we're holding things, what we're full moon, right? What we focus on gets bigger. This is a universal principle. So when we focus on something fearful, we are adding more energy to fearful energy. When we're focusing on positive energy, we're starting to build more energies towards positive outcome. So as we're all having to practice keeping our hopes up and seeing in an optimistic point of view, even with all the things that are happening. So it's the yoga of negative and positive and all the energies that are actually happening to be able to still hold for the greatest good for all. That is the work of the aspirant these days. So keep your hopes up, stay aware, stay awake, and have a wonderful week. And we'll see you next week with another Astrocast.
Take care, everybody. Have a lovely week and be safe.